Quest for the Tree Kangaroo by Cy Montgomery. It feels like we've walked into a living fairy tale. Our heads are literally in the clouds. Though we're just a few degrees south of the equator, we're bathed in a cool mist. We're 10,000 feet up in the mountains. Here, the trees are cloaked in clouds. The ground is carpeted with thick green moss. In the cloud forest of Papua New Guinea, ferns grow into trees like those the dinosaurs knew. Moss and ferns, vines and orchids hang from branches like the beards of wise old wizards. In a place like this, we half expect a hobbit or a troll to show up. But it's better than that. The animals who really do live here are even more fantastic, and directly above us is one of them. This is incredible. Lisa Davak, 45, can't help but exclaim each time she sees one in the wild. She's the scientific leader of our research team, and she's fixed her binoculars on one of the rarest, strangest, and least understood creatures on the planet. More than 80 feet above her, high in one of the tall, ancient trees, a kangaroo is looking down at us. A kangaroo? In a tree? That's just what Lisa thought when she met her first tree kangaroo about 20 years ago. The encounter took place at the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, Washington. Lisa was a graduate student in animal behavior. She had never heard of a tree kangaroo before, but meeting one changed her life. It looked like a big stuffed animal, she remembers, or something that Dr. Seuss might have dreamed up. Impossibly soft, with a rounded face, button eyes, pink nose, pert upright ears, and a long, thick tail. It was about the size of a small dog or an overweight cat, with plush brown and golden fur. There were two of them, two mothers with tiny babies concealed in their pouches. They were as strange as they were adorable. They were like monkeys up in the trees, but they weren't monkeys, she recalls. They looked a little like bears, but they weren't bears. And then they had a pouch for their babies, a totally different thing from most other mammals. What she was looking at then, and what we're seeing today above us in the tree, was a Matschie's tree kangaroo. It's one of 10 kinds of tree kangaroos on the planet. I was totally intrigued, Lisa said. I fell completely in love with these animals. Lisa learned at the zoo that the Matschie's tree kangaroo is among the rarest creatures on Earth, and getting rarer. As people cut down the cloud forest and killed more and more kangaroos, the species was disappearing. She decided to do something about it. And that's what brought Lisa and us, a team of scientists and volunteers she's gathered from 3 continents to help her, on this quest to a remote and magical forest in the clouds. We've come to try to learn the secrets of these rare creatures. What do they eat? How many are left? What do they need to survive? We hope to find out the answers before it's too late. The Matschie's live in a lost world, on a Stone Age island, in a land that time forgot. That's how people still describe New Guinea. It's the second largest island on Earth. Only one island, Greenland, is bigger. Only the Amazon has more tropical rainforest. But New Guinea has many other different habitats for animals to live in besides tropical rainforest, from seashores to coral reefs to glaciers to cloud forests. New Guinea was mostly unexplored by outsiders until the middle of the 20th century, and for good reason. The place is full of tangled jungles, steep mountains, erupting volcanoes, dangerous mudslides, aggressive crocodiles, poisonous snakes, and tropical diseases. The few explorers who survived expeditions there noted another hazard. The local people sometimes had newcomers for dinner. Literally. Headhunting cannibal tribes sometimes ate people, clothes and all, except for their shoes. They gave the shoes to their pigs to eat, just as dogs eat rawhide shoes. Things have changed. Headhunting fell out of fashion. It's thought that nobody eats people there anymore. But still, especially on the eastern half of the island, the nation known as Papua New Guinea, few roads mar the wilderness. Ancient forests remain unexplored. New species are still being found. Here, you'll find birds that grow as tall as a man. Cassowaries remind you of dinosaurs. They sport tall helmets of bone growing up from their blue and black heads. Long, skinny black feathers hang from their bodies like hair. Because they have only tiny stumps for wings, cassowaries can't fly. But they sure can fight. They can leap into the air and slash at their enemies with claws as sharp as razors. Other birds, like the pitowee, have poisonous feathers. And still others are so beautiful they are called birds of paradise. Strange animals abound. The treeak is a beautiful black and white striped possum with a pink nose and huge black eyes. The fourth finger on each hand is more than twice as long as the others, all the better to fish grubs from holes in rotting trees. The echidna is a spine-covered, worm-eating mammal who lays eggs instead of giving birth to live babies. The Dorcopsis is a fat little kangaroo who grows no longer than your forearm. The pademelon is another who sleeps in soft beds of grass. The cuscus lives in trees. Its eyes are huge, its fur thick and soft. It holds onto branches with pink hands and a pink grasping tail. But perhaps the most amazing of them all is the Matschie's tree kangaroo. It lives only in one place in the world, the cloud forest of the Huon Peninsula on the northeast coast of Papua New Guinea. The western half of New Guinea is part of the much larger nation of Indonesia. New Guinea isn't exactly the sort of place you'd expect a typical kid growing up in a New York City apartment to end up. But Lisa wasn't typical. Lisa always loved animals, watching them, reading about them, writing stories about them, but being with animals wasn't easy. She was so allergic to fur she even had to give away her beloved cat Twinkles when she was 11. She couldn't have a dog either. As a child, sometimes she would wake at night gasping for breath. Lisa has asthma. She loves sports, but she couldn't join the track or basketball teams. Sometimes running made her breathing worse. Who'd have thought she'd grow up to be a tree kangaroo scientist, climbing 10,000-foot mountains into the thin air of the cloud forest? Not Lisa's elementary school teachers. Since kindergarten, not one of them encouraged her interest in animals. In fact, one teacher complained to Lisa's mother. She thought a little girl who always wrote stories about animals was odd. Lisa's two older sisters weren't as excited about animals as Lisa was, but their mom, the principal at a nursery school, understood. She loved animals and nature too. How could Lisa bring animals into her life? Living in New York City, how could she observe them in the wild? We didn't have a lawn or a backyard, Lisa remembers. Instead, we had the asphalt roof of the garage. Even there, she found a way. Little ants lived on the roof, so Lisa decided to study them. She used to collect them in Dixie cups. That way, she could pick them up without hurting them and watch whatever they did. Mainly, they tried to get out of the cup. Then she would let them go. Later in high school, Lisa researched a report on beluga whales, the beautiful white whales of the Arctic. She read books and articles, but that wasn't enough. She went to the New York Aquarium. She decided to see what she could find out by watching the beluga whales up close and personal. She even got to touch one. The next year, as a senior, Lisa volunteered to help a scientist at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. He was studying electric fish. One really big electric fish lived in a tank in his lab. She remembers that he told her to put her hand in the tank to feel how strong the shock was. I was a little scared, but I did it, she said, and I felt it. It was a strong shock, but it didn't hurt. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And so is this whole world of learning about animals. In college and as a graduate student, Lisa studied wild elephant seals and sea lions in California. When she was outdoors, fur didn't trigger her allergies. She studied titi monkeys and squirrel monkeys in a primate center at the University of California, Davis. But when she met her first tree kangaroo at Seattle's Woodland Park Zoo, she knew they were special. She knew that she would be willing to do anything to help these endangered animals. And she knew what she would have to do next. You guessed it, Lisa began traveling to the Huon Peninsula. Most of the time she was based at the Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island. There are tree kangaroos there, and she worked as the zoo's director of conservation and research. Every year she would make a trip to Papua New Guinea to try to see the tree kangaroos in the wild. Lisa made expedition after expedition. The mountain hikes were hard. She carried an inhaler to help her breathe. She took special pills to open her airways. But over the years, she had built up her strength, and in Papua New Guinea, she was in for a wonderful surprise. Even though the air was thin at 10,000 feet, it was pure. America's air pollution made Lisa's asthma worse. New Guinea's clean air made it better. For weeks, working with local trackers and a field assistant from home, she'd combed the mountains. Many times she thought she saw a tail, or the hunched body of a tree kangaroo looking down at her, but it was only a clump of moss. In a 5-week expedition in 1996, she saw 2 tree kangaroos. one of whom she glimpsed so briefly she got only a single photo. The other she was able to watch for 45 minutes in videotape. But then she didn't see another for 7 years. No wonder. To most tree kangaroos, people are frightening enemies. With bow and arrow, sometimes with the help of dogs, people have hunted and eaten them for hundreds of years. As more Matchie's tree kangaroos were killed, the ones who were left grew more afraid. The minute they'd hear Lisa coming, they'd hide. But the tree kangaroo's fear only increased her determination to help them. At the villages in the mountains, Lisa and her growing team met with local landowners. The team and the landowners spoke together about the disappearing tree kangaroos. After meeting with the conservationists, the people agreed to set aside some of their land as no hunting zones. This land would be a sort of wildlife bank where the animals could live in peace. Lisa and her team also talked with local school teachers. Lisa wanted the kids to learn how lucky they were to have tree kangaroos and echidnas, cuscus, and tribes. She wanted them to understand how important it is to protect the forest. Meanwhile, Lisa tried to learn about the tree kangaroos, even though she couldn't see them. How? With assistants who stayed in the field, she studied their small oval dark green droppings. The people call it peck-peck, to try to see what the tree kangaroos were eating. They tried to guess how many animals lived there. She and the team looked for scratch marks on the trees where the animals' claws had dug into the moss-covered bark. They talked to local people who told Lisa what they had learned from hunting the creatures. Then, in late 2003, everything changed. Lisa found out about a place where the tree kangaroos hadn't been hunted in many years. In fact, no tree kangaroo living there was old enough to remember hunters. In captivity, a tree kangaroo can live as long as a cat, sometimes even into its 20s. They had little fear of people. And that's where we're standing now. We're hoping we can capture this beautiful tree kangaroo just for a short time. We hope to outfit it with a radio collar. By following the radio signal with telemetry equipment, we want to track the animal through the dense forest, even when we can't see it. This way we can learn and we can help. We are so full of questions. Can we get the kangaroo down from the tree? Catch it before it gets away? Safely collar the animal? And if we do, will the collar stay on and work? Will our team be able to follow the signal? Will tree kangaroos show us what they need to survive so we can help protect them? Or will the lives of these mysterious animals remain secret forever? Other scientists have told Lisa that tracking tree kangaroos is impossible, but we've got to try.